And the credits are over, and now it's time for us to talk and say
Now,
things.
now we have to do things. We have to be entertaining and energy. We've had
And-
hard days. We've had hard days.
No, but it's always energizing to see the cute little face of my baby brother.
Ay,
Oh,
come on now.
There you go.
Come on.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Getting through the days in this current state of what the heck. And yeah. I mean, look, everybody talks about it. It's just the constant. So we should probably just accept that and move on.
Move on to other things.
Everybody's dealing with it.
Have you cooked anything interesting?
Yeah, I did have some fun with that. Dad sent me some fun things to cook with for Christmas and birthday and stuff, and
Nice.
frozen hatch chilies
Nice.
and dried chilies to cook with. So I'm kind of learning about how to do that stuff. And he sent a recipe for roasted potatoes, or like roast potatoes in the pan with poblano peppers and red onions, and that was really good.
Oh yeah, he sent me that recipe too. I haven't tried it yet.
The poblano, learning how to cook a little bit with peppers and stuff has been exciting.
That's great.
Then that shows you what's been going on here.
Yeah.
How about you? You made something. You showed me a picture of something recently.
Oh yeah, I cooked some stuff. I cooked the best split pea soup I've ever made this week.
You sent me a picture of something that looked like a ham steak lightly braised with this kind of a pea soup infusion.
No, that's just because the pieces of ham were all floating were all on the top. When you give it a good stir, it was integrated.
What I said wasn't. I didn't mean that as a
bad thing. Yeah. No, it did have a lot more ham. It wasn't like I threw one ham hock in there. There was a lot of meat in that soup. But
now, do you actually do the hock? It's the hock, or do you cheat and use ham?
I would like to do the hock. I wasn't able to find any hocks. So I actually used a smoked sausage.
That'll do.
Cut up, and I did a lot more onion and celery and carrot than normal, and really caramelized it before.
Yeah, caramelization. That's really what cooking was invented to do. That's why we do it.
Right, exactly. And then I made my signature cheesy green chili, and I used hatch chilies in it. Cheesy green chili skillet beer bread, which takes about 3 minutes to put all the ingredients together, mix them up in a bowl, and then pour them into the cast iron skillet and put it in the oven for 45 minutes. And you have just a festival of flavor.
Sounds fantastic.
But last night was the highlight. Dad sent me a crepe pan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I cured it yesterday and made crepes for the first time, and they came out pretty good. I just put a little Swiss cheese, thinly sliced Swiss cheese inside, and browned them a little more. And
what you can also do? You can just smash a piece of white bread onto a plate and scoop some Nutella up with it, and or you could microwave that if you want to, but crepe.
You're not a crepe fan.
No, I am. I actually am, but I mean, it's a lot of work, and I'm like, the flavor levels are probably hit about the same if you think about it.
The work actually was a lot less than I thought it would be. Took me just a couple of minutes to make the batter. I made a tiny bit of batter just because it was just me, enough for 2 crepes. 1 egg, a little milk, a little flour.
Could you put some of that pea soup in there?
I didn't put the pea soup in there, but I probably could have. So that was my and tonight after the show, I have a New York strip steak air drying in the fridge right now. And that's going in a pan after the show.
I think that sounds like a really good plan.
Yeah. So it's a great show tonight, and we'll see you all next week.
Enjoy. Thank you guys. Thank you, everybody.
You talk to the people.
Send us a rating if you can. Thank you.
I'm gonna go get a steak. Let me see. We got a comment here. What is it?
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. My very good friend Carrie Berger Rosenthal says the Arkin's cook on newsstands now. I guess that's a subtle way of saying start talking about
Start talking about the movie,
guys. We don't
guys.
care about your food and
Yeah, it
your
doesn't sound.
culinary adventures.
It's
But before
exciting,
we
but
talk about the movie, you watch anything else this week? You watching anything good?
am I watching anything good other than what we're watched for tonight? Let's see. I have to look at my notes because I watch things and I forget. I forget what they are.
I get you.
We saw some stuff. We saw Being the Ricardos. Finally caught up with that. Aaron Sorkin's Being the Ricardos.
Such a good writer.
He was a good writer. We saw Zola, really, really cool indie film called Zola. Did you hear about that?
Zardoz?
No. Although it's almost as crazy as Zardoz is. It's a really good indie movie. What else did we see? I'm still riding high on Earthquake. That movie meant a lot to me. It was a lot for me to think about. And
I'm going to stay silent.
No.
I'm going to mind my own
I'm
business.
gathering, I want you to know that I'm gathering intel on this, and I have some backup. Not that, you were open to my ideas, which I gotta say, I really appreciate that, because it's a crazy thing to say what I said, but I'm hell bent on getting some other considered opinions weighing in on it.
Okay. I'll try desperately to keep an open mind.
Or maybe you would take the challenge and try to get some people to, shoot down my theories and destroy me.
I don't want to crush your dreams. You're my brother. I love you. I support you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, we're told here that no, Carrie wants the recipe.
Oh, okay. So she was serious.
She was serious. Okay, good. That's good to know.
Well, let's get to work. We got some work to do.
Don't you want to know what I've been watching?
You've been watching a British. Let me think. British crime drama.
Yeah.
With a female lead.
No.
You switched shows on me.
I switched shows because BritBox ran out of episodes of Vera. Now I would have to subscribe to Acorn.
Why is it always everybody else's fault?
I'm always blaming somebody else. So I started watching a different British, Shetland. And now I want to move to the Shetland Islands because that looks like the most beautiful place on God's green earth. Starring Douglas Henshall. And actually in the latest episode that I just started watching last night, but then I fell asleep. I had to go to sleep. Brian Cox is in it.
Oh, well, he's great.
And he's a spectacular actor. So this is it's a good show.
Brian Cox is a regular on it?
No, he's just a guest star on, I guess each crime is 2 episodes.
So let me guess, he's the guest rich scary guy.
No, he's the odd scary guy who lives alone with a crow.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
All right.
Interesting character he's playing. But enough of this foolishness. Let's get on to talking about, I think it's time for us to have a very deep discussion.
Me too.
You see what I did there?
Me too.
Yeah.
Let's get into it, shall we?
The Core, 2003. A whopping 135 minutes.
It's a long movie.
A 2-hour and 15-minute joyride to the center of the earth. This movie made me feel like I was being sucked into the bowels of the earth.
Did it?
Yeah. Let's just cut right to the chase. What's it about? Do you want to tell people what it's about?
Yeah, sure. I'll take a stab at it. And I'm not even going to read this off of, the website. I'm just going to kind of try to wing it.
Okay.
It's this movie is about a professor played by Aaron Eckhart, who makes a discovery, a shocking and horrifying discovery, that the molten core of the Earth is going to stop rotating. It's stopped. It's stalled out. Essentially, the engine of the Earth, which controls the magnetic things that you need
Yeah, the magnetic things that we need
for survival.
Because if the core of the Earth stops rotating, then all of the magnets will fall off your refrigerator.
You won't be able to get your laundry lists. You won't be able to know what to get at the store. It's going to be rough.
Things will happen.
Of just refrigerators across the world with just all different kinds of magnets falling off.
Children's artwork all over the kitchen floor. It's
terrifying.
Horrible. No,
very moving.
Happen.
Moving
Ladies
and
and gentlemen, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. We're being silly.
So Aaron Eckhart just makes this discovery. It hasn't happened yet, but it's going to. He knows it's going to happen, and he tries to gather some intel. And he is then approached by the government, who vets what he has to say, and says, "You're right. What do we do about it?" So a team is gathered. Now, core to the film, if you forgive the not even pun, because I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
But central to the movie.
Central to the movie. Getting to the heart of the matter. Is
a conceit that somebody who flies a space... Ooh, something fell over. Is everything all right? I guess so. Oh, that wasn't anybody I know.
Live theater, people.
It's happening right now. So a team is gathered. Among them, who would you think to go into the center of the Earth to start the Earth again? Well, an astronaut.
Yeah,
get an astronaut.
You would not in a million years approach for instance, a submarine commander.
No, that would be insane.
Yeah, no.
That would be
flying an enormous metal worm through solid rock is exactly the same as flying a space shuttle.
I'm glad you agree. I thought I'd get more of a fight. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Right.
And so they get a team together. They assemble, much like the Seven Samurai, if there are only 5 of them. And they all have special abilities, including Delroy Lindo, who plays a scientist who's estranged from his old friend Stanley Tucci, who ripped him off.
Yeah.
Delroy has built a giant laser monocratizer, a device.
A monocratizer?
I think that's what it was called, wasn't it? No?
Yeah, sure.
And wherein he shoots plasma lasers at anything pretty much and makes a hole, and you can go through it.
Yeah. If this was an episode of Phineas and Ferb, it would be called a giant rock-away-inator.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for that. So Delroy Lindo says, well, how much, he goes, when do you need it? He goes, we need it very soon. How much money do you need? And he goes, oh, I'd need billions of dollars. And they go, you have it. And so in 6 months, they build this device, assemble the team, and they go into the core of the Earth. Here's the plan. With nuclear bombs that they will set off to restart the Earth. Because that's apparently how you do that.
So you're saying there are plausibility problems with the movie?
I honestly have never seen a movie that has a more insane central premise than this film.
Yeah. Here's the thing, I spent a lot of time talking to my son, who is very, very smart, and knows a lot about literature and literary tropes, and particularly about things like science. Like he's the one who explained to me about, we were having a discussion. He said, no, Dad, that's science fantasy. This is science fiction. And I was like, oh, what's the difference between, and he was explaining to me the difference between science fiction and science fantasy, 2 completely different things. This movie sort of purports to be science fiction, But science fiction has somewhat of an obligation to say, here is the science that we know, and we're going to extrapolate into the future. And this takes the science that we know and says, we're going to give the science we know magical powers to do things it could never do.
It is the equivalent of a 1950s, schlock sci-fi movie with that level of attention to scientific detail. If you go see like the original Mission to Mars from the 50s,
right,
and what space travel was depicted like,
yeah,
it's the same level of you've got to be frickin' kidding me.
And what's the movie, the Mars movie with James? Oh God, I'm blanking on his name. His son's a big TV director, James Whitmore. Isn't James Whitmore in one of those big like Martian landing on Mars movies?
Probably. I don't know. I can't help you with that one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh yes, no, James Whitmore is. He's in Them with the ants. Yeah.
Oh, but that's the ants. What's the one I'm thinking of? There's one where they land on Mars and the ladies are in like foil dresses, and
there's a lot of those.
Yeah, that's kind of what this movie is like.
Yeah, it's the same level of believability. Yeah.
There's, I would commend readers who want to dive into what is wrong with this movie scientifically to the IMDb trivia page for the movie that has a list of things that scientists put together with what's wrong with this movie. That's as long as your arm. It's hysterical to read.
I'm sure. I can't even imagine. The thing that I kind of find endearing about it, though, is the fact that they all kind of know and are just like, we don't care. We're just going to enjoy this ride. And
they're swinging for the fences in this movie.
Yeah.
What was your relationship to it when it came out?
I didn't see it when it came out. I did see it. I caught up with it on video maybe 6 years ago. 5 years ago. So I'd seen it before, not too long ago. And it had been recommended by friend of the show, Peter Stray, who loves this kind of movie and thinks it's hysterical and demanded that I see it. And I was very grateful because it's completely funny to me. And on multiple levels, I enjoyed it when I saw it before. I kind of enjoyed it this time, but it is shameless. It's absolutely shameless.
How
about you? Had you seen it?
When you suggested watching this movie and you said The Core, I assumed that you were saying CORPS and it was a movie about Marines. I didn't remember ever hearing of it. I didn't see it. I knew nothing about it. It completely went right under my radar. And that may have been because it came out not that long after 9/11, a year and a half or so after that. And I had a young child and was busy with parenting and not seeing movies like this. But I
get everything except a year and a half after 9/11. That's not a connection. I can understand. Were you not going to movies a year and a half after 9/11
out of some kind of children and showbiz and diapers and
because you weren't under investigation or anything like that. I'm just trying to clear up what made it impossible for you to see movies as connected to 9/11. But we can move on.
Okay. I did spend a lot of time because this movie was so bad that I came into this evening's show, or rather I woke up this morning pretty secure in the knowledge that you were not going to be explaining to me tonight why I was mistaken and this was actually a good movie. So I thought, what would be really fun to do? What would be really fun to do would be to come up with some take on it where I pretended to think it was a really good movie and come up with some angle which I could try to explain to you why it was actually brilliant and really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I really worked on that and realized the movie was so bad there was no way I could even pull that off. The angle I was going down was I was going to say this is what it actually is a brilliant morality tale. Because each of the characters who dies, and they do die one at a time until the only person that's left, the only people that are left are Hilary Swank and Aaron Eckhart, but Bruce Greenwood dies, Delroy Lindo dies, Checky Cario dies. It's the Magnificent Six, right? Checky Cario, and then
Stanley Tucci.
Stanley Tucci. 4 people die one after the other. And I tried to come up with some sort of thematic thing that the 4 of them had in common, that if this, then death, if that, then survival. And I was saying that they all believe in something, so they die, right? Bruce Greenwood believes in his country. Serge believes in his family. Delroy Lindo believes in his ship. And Stanley Tucci believes in posterity and having a reputation that will go down through history. Whereas, Aaron Eckhart's just a scientist, and Hilary Swank's just a pilot, so they live. So the message of the movie is, if you believe in something passionately,
you're gonna die.
It's over. You're gonna die. But I couldn't sell it. I couldn't sell the idea.
I appreciate the effort. I really do. You might have something there. Yeah.
But so the pedigree of the movie, the writers, Cooper Lane wrote the classic The Fog.
Yeah.
And John Roger wrote a lot of TV, things like The Librarians series, which is sort of a fun fantasy adventure series. And then directed by John Amiel, who directed a lot of television and then started directing movies and then directed this movie and had to go back to television.
Well, he was, I guess, put in a bit of a penalty box for it, I suppose. What's interesting about John Amiel, I don't know how to pronounce it. John Amiel. He is a British filmmaker, and he did start in TV, but not only that, is directed one of the best TV things in my opinion, ever done. And did some really good stuff. Did you ever see The Singing Detective?
No.
Oh man, The Singing Detective is a cult thing, and it's really incredible. It's the first time I'd ever seen Michael Gambon, and he's amazing in it. And it's a really disturbing kind of head trip of an experience. I think it's maybe 6 parts. Or Dennis Potter is the writer of it, and he was famous for Pennies from Heaven and other stuff. And this is really exceptional. So John Amiel did that, and he did some really kind of classy movies with like Summersby, and then we get here, and I'm not going to lay the blame at his feet.
I was just going to say exactly that.
I think
he put in the penalty box. I would not lay this at his feet.
No, I don't think he deserves. I think he deserves praise for what he did, because I think, considering the material that we're working with, he cast it really well with a lot of fun people, and he decided to kind of have fun with it, and I appreciated that. He didn't think he was making an Eisenstein movie.
No.
He knew what he was making.
I wonder, there are some decisions that I would have made differently with this movie visually. not in terms of the visuals of I thought the inside of the ship was spectacular.
It looked good, yeah.
I thought that looked great. Where it broke down for me was every time they went to the exteriors of the interior of the Earth. I think it could have been much more interesting if we had stayed in the ship and experienced the claustrophobia of that journey in the way it would have actually, if you tried to have some sort of nod to science, what it would have looked like to them.
Well,
But every time we cut to these exteriors of a ship that we're watching as if it's flying through space when it's actually tunneling through Earth, you lost me.
well, where is the camera? I mean, I don't quite understand.
Exactly.
How are we seeing it?
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas if all of that was from mission control and was sort of, computer generated images of what we think is going on down there, because we have to be tracking the ship. And if out the windows of the ship, we didn't see any, if it bore some relation to a nod to reality.
Well, you don't know anything about big blockbusters, do you, man? You've got to see the giant, expensive things. You have to.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let you do it. They wouldn't let you Das Boot this. They wouldn't let you do it.
But boy, that could have made it terrible.
It would have been a much better way to go. Yeah. Much better. And my guess is, knowing John Amiel's earlier work as a director, he probably was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
And like, I wish we could do it that way.
The other thing that they needed in this movie was a Horta. See, if they'd had a Horta, this whole thing would have, there wouldn't have been everything would have been fine.
Is this the part where I ask you what a Horta is?
Yeah.
What's a Horta?
Horta was there's an episode of Star Trek that there was a creature that could bore straight through solid rock.
I remember that. Yeah.
And they think it's a monster and they blast it with their phasers and
is that the one that looks like a hamburger?
It looks like a hamburger and it can tunnel through solid rock, and Spock mind melds with it finally to figure out what's going on, and it's the pain.
That's weird. I think probably the first Star Trek I ever saw, and it traumatized me terribly because I remember that hamburger creature vividly. Don't they shoot it with a phaser and it glows?
They shoot it with a phaser and it hurts it, and when then they find out at the end that it's actually, protecting its eggs, because they're doing mining operations and they're discarding these things that they think are worthless mineral nodules of some kind that they don't understand. And then Spock mind melds with the Horta and they find out that those are all actually the eggs of the Horta. And then once he communicates with them, they realize that, wow, we can cooperate. And the Hortas will do the boring through the rock to help us with the mining operations, and we'll protect their eggs, and everybody's happy.
And they could have Horta rancheros.
Yeah, exactly. And they realize that they have a lot of horticulture. I'm sorry.
You really need to stop doing that. We should probably avoid that.
They go to theater
type of thing.
But I want to find some stuff to praise about this movie. There were some sequences in it. The bird sequence.
It was good, yeah. The bird attack on London.
Yeah, the conceit is that the messing up of the magnetic field messes up the bird's navigation abilities and causes them to freak out. And there's this sort of mass migration attack event in Trafalgar Square in London. People are killed. That was pretty good.
I thought it was really good. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that a lot.
I was thinking at that point, hey, this movie, as ridiculous as the premise is, it shows some promise. The ridiculous premise showed some promise. And then I also thought that the landing of the space shuttle in the LA River, outlandish, crazy, but for an action adventure,
I love that sequence. I actually thought that was fantastic. I mean, look, if we're talking about movies of the ilk of Armageddon and, to a lesser degree, Deep Impact, which is much more realistic, I think. But in essence, all these movies are somewhat ludicrous. And this one embraced that more wholeheartedly than any of the ones that we've seen.
Deep Impact, what's that about?
Deep Impact, we had a guest on the show for
We
Deep
saw that.
Impact.
Did we see that movie?
We did see that movie. How dare you? What if Joe's watching now?
Oh my God. No, I remember Joe. Of course I remember
Lord.
Joe.
We've lost a subscriber.
Oh my God, we're down to 4.
Yeah, we needed him. That was a quarter of our subscribers. Yeah.
I don't think it's going to have a very deep impact on our viewership.
Here's what I'm as I said, we really should think about not running that to that level.
Okay.
Just maybe not so early in the show. At the end.
Okay. All right. So the bird event, the shuttle landing, the setup of the 2 scientists and Richard Jenkins, I thought was terrific. When Aaron Eckhart sort of Sherlock Holmeses the reason why they're there in Washington, like he figures out what's going on, like why he and this other scientist would be there. The only possible reason could be X, Y, and Z. I thought that was terrific.
Yeah, I did too. I'm not gonna like try to tell anybody this is like an excellent movie, but I had a great time watching this movie.
Yeah, I did too.
I mean, I think I laughed my ass off. I thought there were some surprising sequences in it, like the ones you mentioned. And then there are some of the most embarrassing things I've seen in a movie in a while. And I enjoyed all of it. I enjoyed the good and the bad.
What would those embarrassing things be?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think
I have a couple.
I think Stanley Tucci's death in this movie is about as funny. I mean, the whole lead up to it, the way it happens. There's a part of me that feels like they got to about that part of the movie shooting and they got tired and they were just like running out of money and running out of steam. And his death in particular, he gets trapped because a nuclear device rolls like a barrel over his leg and traps him.
Yeah.
And it is literally like, it looks like the $6 Million Man. It looks like a styrofoam. It's like a stunt from that show. And the amount of like, oh no, and oh my God, and stuff that he has to do to convince everybody that he's been hit by this thing and that he's trapped underneath it and he can't move is amazing. It's truly astounding.
But I did love his actual death scene where
it's hysterical.
I thought, and I loved his commitment to it. His commitment to what a pompous ass he was being, and then the realization that he was being a pompous ass, and that he has a moment of growth and redemption right before he dies. And let's say everybody, there's a lot of acting in this movie. There's more acting in this movie than maybe in 7 other movies put together.
Scientifically provable.
Yeah, and Stanley is a brilliant actor, but he's responsible for a lot of the acting in this movie.
Stanley is both great in his accomplishments, his ability, and in the size of what he is. Great in terms of size. He will,
and he can pull off the big stuff. He really can.
He can chew any furniture that you have in on the set. He will chew through it like a beaver, and it's always fun to watch. And what's great about Tucci is that I think he got the joke. He clearly totally gets the joke. He knows what this movie is. I feel like he got the job and he'd already gone to the premiere in his head. Like he knew exactly how it was going to get received.
Okay, but we have to do something here that they do on NPR, which is, if they're doing a story about a sponsor, they have to say NPR is sponsored by blah, blah, blah. So, take our reporting with a grain of salt. and I think we do have to mention that Stanley's dad was my homeroom teacher and your art teacher for many years. And I knew Stanley in high school and in college. So
Look,
we have
Mr. Tucci was, I mean, in all seriousness, was one of the most important people I knew growing up. He was,
he was a profound influence on your life.
yeah, like huge. I owe a lot to him, and
And when you say Mr. Tucci, we're talking about Stanley's dad.
Stanley's dad, who I can't, I call him Mr. Tucci out of his honor. I mean, like he was a great artist and probably the best teacher of what he did of art that I ever met. He was incredible, and I never met his son. Always admired his work, and always felt like I always hope to one day meet, or work with Stanley Tucci, just to be able to tell him, like, I was in love with your dad. So, and he's looks so much like him. Like it's kind of crazy too.
Down to the wig that he was wearing.
Exactly. I wonder,
like that wig that his dad used to wear.
I think he modeled it after his dad, but he gets the joke, and his death is just hysterically funny, but also it's also like you can see him going like, I know this is insane, like what they're asking me to pull off is funny. Like all the deaths, the French nuclear expert, is his death is pretty extraordinary, when he's trying to look like he's being crushed into a pulp when they're clearly just like moving tables and stuff closer to him, and he's trying to act like he's getting crushed and nothing's happening.
I wanted to see effects there. I wanted to see like a person burst like a squeezed tomato.
Well, you didn't get it, and you're not going to, because they made this movie already, and they neglected to put that in here. I want to say, because I think there's a lot of specific things we could mention and lines of dialogue and stuff. Was there any other general thing you wanted to say about the movie, or what your take on it is, other than specific things that were funny or not?
General stuff. What do I have generally? Well, in terms, we were talking about the reception earlier. A.O. Scott in the New York Times said that the cast of the core, and this relates to what you were saying about Stanley, the cast of the core deserves Oscar nominations just for being able to speak most of the lines without succumbing to chortles.
There are a couple of shots that look like even Aaron Eckhart just couldn't actually succumb to chortles, and they kept it in.
Yeah. And the other thing I think is like interesting that it's the opposite of Deep Impact, in that we find out the government finds out that the world's going to end, and they keep it a secret, as opposed to in Deep Impact, they find out that the world's going to end and they tell everybody.
Right. Which makes sense, because Deep Impact is about the effect that news has on people and what they do, their emotional lives. And this is just about cut to the team getting this done. And here's what I kind of came to about it.
We have a comment from Brian.
Hey, Brian, Copycat's a wonderful movie. It's actually underseen. Copycat is really cool.
Yeah, Brian Jesuit says, personally, I think Amiel's better work is Copycat.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. It may be his best movie, but the point I was making was like, here's what I really appreciated about the core, why I like it, why I had a great time watching it, is that unlike a lot of other disaster movies, which try to play on my heartstrings and do it pretty ineptly, like really lay on the schmaltz and lay on the sentimentality, and that's not really my favorite part of the disaster movies. I like the action part of it. I don't go to have my tears jerked out of my face. So I appreciated about the core that it had a real Howard Hawks sensibility to it. And Howard Hawks is a director I love. I know you like a lot. And I think in that spirit of really focusing on the team and the expertise of getting the job done, and didn't matter really particularly if you were, a woman pilot, or that you were a black man who had made an invention, or it was like very open to involvement. Who could be involved in solving this problem? As long as you can do your job, you're okay. And even
Right.
people that are difficult, like Stanley Tucci's character, just, he gets a punch in the face. Delroy Lindo does what everybody would want to do, like anybody would want to do in that scenario, and punches him in the face. But it's also that kind of Howard Hawks punch where it's like, listen, I like you, but this is what you deserve. And he punches him, and
Yeah.
then it's kind of like over. The movie
Yeah.
never veers into backstory. Interestingly, I think we never learn about anybody's backstory. The only thing we know for a fact is that the French scientist has a family, but we don't know anything about them. That
Right. And
turns into a
we know that Stanley ripped off Delroy
Delroy
Lindo at
Lindo,
some
right,
point.
right, and it's just enough to keep like stuff alive in the room with their characters.
Right.
But it never gets into a sad tale or a sentimental or any of that. There's no time for it. They're just on the mission and they're trying to do their job.
Yeah.
And I like movies like that. I appreciated just not having to sit through, on top of a silly narrative and a ridiculous concept. Also, a lot of emoting, heartfelt backstory, thinking about, people's children or lost
Right.
parents or whatever. It's just like I wouldn't have wanted that. So I appreciated that it didn't give me what I didn't want.
Yeah. Great moment that Stanley had, I thought. I think one of my favorite moments in the movie was Stanley in the moment where all has been lost. And he's like, well, that's it. We turn around, we go back, all's lost, it's over. And they overrule him. And they're sitting there trying to figure out what to do after he said that absolutely nothing can be done. Mathematically, scientifically, there's nothing can be done. And they're trying to work out their equations, and he's listening to them. And finally he's like, okay, no, you see what you do. And his moment of realizing, okay, I'm stuck here, I'm going to participate and make this work. I thought that was, so often when actors have to do a completely interior shift and present it visually, it comes off as crap. And I thought he handled the whole thing beautifully.
He really did. He really did. I mean, he could be shameless, and when he's in a certain mode, a certain kind of comic mode. What's funny is that he actually, like, he played this like he plays his comedies.
Yes.
He kind of played this in the same mode that he would be in, like, almost like Devil Wears Prada or something. Like, he really did, and I appreciated that.
But then we go to the other end of the spectrum, and we have moments like when Hilary Swank's idol and commander and mentor dies. Her reaction is a tongue click, a sigh, and she kind of goes, Bob.
There's
like,
some really some out of touch moments.
It's like, oh darn, my mentor just got swallowed by lava. Guess it's time to move on.
Yeah. He also goes from Aaron Eckhart also has a scene where he flips out because she made the call to close the door on Stanley Tucci, right? I think it was Tucci, and save the crew and lose him. And he flips out on her, crying and screaming, "How could you do it? How could you do it?"
Save them!
Screaming like full on breakdown. And then cut to they're sitting in the chairs together, and he looks over her, he smiles. It's like, you cut some scenes here. You completely cut like a half an hour out of this movie.
Yeah, I'm over it. Any favorite lines or moments? Yeah. I have some favorite lines.
Oh yeah. I mean, this isn't so much a line, but it's something that somebody says that I thought was hysterically funny. unintentionally.
Uh-huh.
And it's it's Bruce Greenwood. Yes?
Yeah.
He it's before they go on the mission, and he has a moment with Hilary Swank. He's her her boss essentially, and taught her everything she knows. And he's like, so you're feeling pretty good, like you're winning, right? She goes, yeah, well, I'm great. I know what I'm doing. And he's like, I don't know. She's like, what's wrong? And he goes, you haven't lost yet.
Yeah.
He like makes a face, and he goes, you're not a leader until you've lost. And then he leaves. And I'm like, interesting sentiment, maybe true. Couldn't have picked a better, like a worse time to say this than now. What purpose would it have been to tell her about to go on this mission, who's trying to psych herself up, to be like,
Yeah.
It's all going great, but you
haven't failed yet. You'll really
you're
be
gonna fail. You got to fail
so
you know.
So maybe fail on this mission, and the planet will end, but you'll
That
be
was
a
an
leader.
incredibly strange choice to have him say that to her. Then,
yeah. One of my favorite lines, in a positive sense, was the FBI agents who were sent to pick them up, and they don't want to. And Aaron Eckhart is like, well, he's drunk, and he's like, well, what if I don't want to go? And he makes a joke or something, and one of the FBI agents says, we have no sense of humor.
It's great,
and we're armed.
It's great.
That got a good laugh out of me. But one that completely lost me was after Bruce Greenwood dies. Somebody says, I forget who it was who says it, but they said he would want us to complete our mission. As if, I mean, that's something you'd say, like, no, he'd want us to have the party, even though he died. Of course he wants you.
What else are you going to do?
Just like, I died, so I think you should let the world end.
The whole world should end, because I'm just that kind of guy.
It was the stupidest line. It's like, he died, but he'd still want us to save the world. That was the dumbest line I've ever heard in my life.
No dumber than when the French, I can't remember this guy's name, and it's terrible.
Checky Cario.
Oh, that's Checky Cario.
Yeah.
For some reason, I never thought that was his name. I knew the actor. I refused to believe it. Checky Cario, that is, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, in his death scene...
And he should not be confused with Jelko Ivanek.
They're very different.
Very different.
Except for their names, which are exactly the same.
Yeah.
When he's dying, Aaron Eckhart is talking to him on a video monitor. And he's looking at this monitor through the next compartment is getting crushed by the atomic weight of the Earth, is just crushing all the equipment into a tiny ball.
Yeah, which is heavy. The Earth is heavy.
There's a lot there, and Checky Cario, he's a big guy, but he can't take it for much longer.
No,
and he's getting crushed. And Aaron Eckhart is crying and talking to him, and he's going, what's Checky's name in the movie?
Serge.
That's right.
Anybody else would pronounce it Serge. They pronounce it
Serge. And he's like, Serge, you're gonna be good. We're gonna get you out of there, man. And then he goes, I'll come to Paris and we'll hang out.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
And I also really like when Richard Jenkins comes up to Aaron Eckhart getting ready for the news conference, and Aaron Eckhart has got like a coffee stained shirt, and he's trying to do his tie, and he's got like a corduroy jacket that a professor would wear. And Richard Jenkins goes, "You look good." And walks out. Yeah. Clearly you don't look good.
Time out though. Richard Jenkins, one of the great actors that we have.
Yeah,
in the world.
No argument here at all from me.
Just, oh my gosh. Every time I find out he's in a movie I'm watching, I am so excited.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't seem to be a style or a kind of script or a kind of character that he can't convincingly do. You just, I mean, I'm always amazed at the range that he has. I really am.
Always so good. A couple of problems aside from the
the movie.
The movie. There's a moment, and this just gets my hackles up, where Aaron Eckhart says the word nuclear.
Does he mispronounce it?
Yeah. It's not okay.
That was take 47 too.
Okay, all right.
I mean, this is almost as convincing a teacher as Mark Wahlberg in The Happening. Like, I don't honestly feel I like Aaron Eckhart. I just don't necessarily buy him as a college
professor?
Science professor. Am I wrong there? Is there
I am so with you on this.
Because I like him. I think he's fine to watch. He's entertaining. He's good. He's I just don't think that that's within the range.
Another line that got me. Guys, at this rate, we have about 3 minutes before the lava gets us.
When do you get to say that? That's why it's a great line. It's never been said. It's like so rare.
So, double feature.
Yeah, double feature for me. I would say I would double feature this with The Fantastic Voyage.
Oh, we're so close.
What'd you say?
Journey to the Center of the Earth. James Mason. The early one, 1959 with James Mason.
Classic, great one. No, Gomez, no. That one. I used to watch that every weekend.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Who am I? Who are you?
Oh, you are clearly, I almost said this when you mentioned the line, but you're the Fed who has no sense of humor.
Oh, okay. Huh. And who are you?
I'm the Italian guy that gets electrocuted by the television when Rome explodes.
Oh, I had so much more respect for you.
Oh, you shouldn't have.
I shouldn't have?
What did you say?
I made you DJ Qualls.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'd love to see you play that part. The renegade.
I would take that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I was the guy in Mission Control who starts crying when he thinks they've all died.
That's good. That's a good one. I like that. I buy that.
And the sequel?
The sequel? Is this a new? I haven't thought of a sequel.
Yeah, for some reason I have in my notes a question. What would we call the sequel to this movie?
The Corn.
The Corn. Mine was The Pour, meaning I'm pouring myself a drink after watching this movie.
Okay. I highly recommend this. I think that if you know what you're in for and you know you're going to see some absolutely ridiculous nonsense, this is the movie to pick. Yeah. It has some of the most memorably ridiculous death scenes, some really, really like overblown, crazy effect sequences that don't really make much sense, but they threw everything at them.
Yeah.
And
then some really very exciting sequences where I was actually caught up at the end. Are they going to make it? Are they going to be as ridiculous as it was? I got caught up in it.
It's got the believability of a Thunderbirds episode, pretty much,
Yeah.
But it does what it does really well. I want to say, I think my favorite moment, I don't think it's a scene, my favorite moment, they're demonstrating in front of a panel of scientists and world leader or US officials, the science behind why the earth has stopped turning, the core of the earth is not turning, and why we need it to turn and all this stuff.
Right.
So Aaron Eckhart, who is woefully ill-equipped to kind of do this, is up on this dais confronting all these Nobel Prize winning scientists, and is trying to figure out how to explain the core of the earth and the fire and what to do, how to explain it better. And so he goes to the giant craft service table that's set up, the buffet that they always have at these things. I'm surprised there wasn't like a waffle chef there,
The omelet
The
station.
omelet station would have been good. But he takes a peach and then a giant sword skewer, and he skewers it. And he runs back over to the middle of the dais, and he goes, okay. And then he looks over to Stanley Tucci, and Stanley Tucci goes, I'm on it. And as if it's a choreographed magic routine,
Exactly.
he jumps up out of his chair, douses the peach with lighter fluid, and then they light it on fire, and together demonstrate a flaming peach.
No, it's like an air freshener, flaming like torch.
Yeah, it's like
thing.
Lysol thing, and they torch it. That's right. They torch it.
Yeah.
And it takes two of them,
Which, scientists, no, but see, Tony, you don't see, they do that all the time in the classrooms. Professor, they're always using
it's as if it was
a Lysol acetylene torch to make a demonstration.
It's like Aaron Eckhart could have turned to him and gone, okay, Stanley, number 22. And like he just would come up and know exactly that they were going to light that peach on fire with a can of Lysol.
Yeah. Well, I think it's sort of, you see, what you didn't understand is that's foreshadowing, right? That's foreshadowing for the kind of cooperation and MacGyverness that they're going to have on the mission that's going to get them through all of this.
You're 100% right. And I guarantee you that Cooper Lane and John Rogers talked about that while they wrote this movie. Because the other people that know what it is are them.
Yeah, exactly.
They know.
That's it.
They know.
Oh my God. So much fun. So silly.
Is this the conclusion to disaster?
This is the end of Cataclysmic January.
I liked ending with this one. I really did.
It was fun. It was lighthearted. Yeah. We weren't at each other's throats.
No.
Which is always nice.
I think we both appreciated it for what it was.
Yeah. To see I'm sure Mom's happy to be seeing us get along for a change.
Yeah. Entering into this new phase, we're coming up with another kind of month of stuff to see.
Yes.
Along with the idea of a double feature or a triple feature.
Yes.
I'd like to start working into the conversation. What's the perfect way to see this movie?
Oh,
not just what to see it with, but under what circumstances?
Under what circumstances? Like with a romantic date, or with your best buddy, or with somebody
what kind
you don't
of
like very much.
Theater, or you can include food, or whatever circumstances.
What flavor popcorn you would.
All of that can be included.
Jujubes or Whoppers.
Right. We can get
rotten
as technical as we
fruit
want.
To throw at the screen.
It's up to you. And the viewers or the listeners. Yeah.
So speaking of the new month, next month is British Horror February. We've got quite a lineup. Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, 1969. Curse of the Werewolf, 1961. Twins of Evil, 1971. But we're kicking it off next week with 1960s The Brides of Dracula. I find it hard to believe that Charlotte Rampling isn't in that movie, but she's not.
She wrote it and she wrote and directed.
She wrote it and directed it. Yes. So we hope you join us for that. We hope that you subscribe. We hope that you like our podcast.
That's all we can do is hope. We can hope. I hope you do. It would be nice. We certainly could use all the support and help and likes.
We're trying to keep hope alive. Speaking of one last thing, I bought a book this week called Hope Never Dies, which is a as you know that I'm into the detective fiction. Somebody wrote a detective novel about before Biden won the presidency, or theoretically won the presidency, but when after Obama lost. After, when Trump was in office, somebody wrote a detective novel about Uncle Joe Biden hanging out at home, like wondering what to do with himself. And his old buddy Barack pulls up in front of the house and he's like, come on, we've got this mystery to go solve. And they go off on a buddy detective mystery. and the novel is called Hope Never Dies, and I just bought it, and it's got one of those old pulp covers, you know, with the two of them in a convertible, and Obama pointing into the future, and it just looks
starring
awesome.
Morgan Freeman and Clint Eastwood, coming soon to theaters near you.
It looks fantastic. And then there's a sequel to it called Hope Rides Again. I can't wait to read this.
Wow. All right.
I'll report back to you on it.
Give me the details.
I will. So please join us next week for The Brides of Dracula.
We're getting into some exciting territory.
Yeah. Watch it this week so that you can join in the conversation.
Or don't, because we love to ruin and spoil.
We don't.
So if you want it spoiled, you'll get that.
We love to ruin movies. All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, man. This was great. Good night.
Good night.